Alright, time to get to some legal news that I have not had a chance to cover all week. Number one, the FTC just banned non-compete agreements for American workers. Now, a lot of people were really confused as to what this means, and I do want to point out that it has nothing to do with the NDA. It has nothing to do with signing an NDA. It does not mean people can work for multiple companies while still employed. All it means is that after you are done being employed, your former contract can't prevent you from working with another agency. Now, a lot of people were assuming that this would have big ramifications for the VTuber industry, but to be completely honest, even Niji Sanji doesn't have a non-compete, and the industries that do typically only have one for about 6-ish months. So, no major shakeups in that specific regard, but in general, a huge W for a wide variety of completely unrelated businesses. This is one of the few times a new law gets passed and I'm not pissed about it. This is a uniquely positive new law. I'm not used to those. I usually hate new laws. Much more in line to what I'm used to seeing, here's some new legislation that I do absolutely hate. And that is, there has been bipartisan support for the ban of TikTok. They tried once, couldn't get it through on its own, so they attached it as a rider to an unrelated bill, and it managed to jettison straight through. So what does this quote-unquote TikTok ban do? Well, if their Chinese parent company ByteDance does not sell TikTok within 270 days, they are going to ban it from all app stores. Now, there are a couple things about this new law that are going to cause it to probably not take effect all that quickly. Not only is there going to be a 270-day period, but also you have to imagine that TikTok itself is going to fight this tooth and nail every single step of the way. In fact, even in this article, they say TikTok is threatening legal action to oppose the law, calling it unconstitutional. Rest assured, we're not going anywhere, yada yada yada. They're gonna fight it. Now, why Congress is so obsessed with banning TikTok over security and privacy concerns when one, there are wildly more important things to be worried about, and two, if you think your data is safe on other social media, I encourage you to go look up the Cambridge Analytica scandal if you somehow managed to miss it. Suffice it to say, your data was never safe regardless. Now, considering how many people online I've seen strongly oppose this bill, in fact, I think this new bill is almost universally hated. Even people who hate TikTok don't want it banned from the United States. A third of all Americans use TikTok. I would also like to point out that despite the numerous security and privacy issues with basically all other social media, TikTok seems to be the only one our government cares about. It's almost like the government doesn't care about us as people and only really cares about what the lobbyists tell them to think. But friends, a government run by 65-plus-year-old men who do not understand the internet, passing legislation to affect the internet that is overwhelmingly hated by basically everyone, is a pattern that continues once again, as the Kids Online Safety Act is widely regarded as a Trojan horse for digital censorship. Now, some egghead whose name I can't pronounce was quoted as saying, "This bill is constitutionally dubious and would create new powers that should frighten not only every parent, but also every user of digital platforms such as social media. In writing new federal rules to, quote, protect kids online, the real effect will be to significantly degrade the experience for all users while putting their sensitive personal information at risk." So what specifically does this new law do? Now, rather than going through articles to get an opinion, because all the articles written about this were wildly biased and contained very little information, I actually went to congress.gov. Now, they have the previous rough draft up, but they've crossed it all out because it's since been rewritten. So if you're wondering what the hell this is, that's draft number one. What this bill does is it imposes a duty of care for websites to moderate the content on their website if it is accessible to children, which 99.99% of websites are. So honestly, all this talk of minors should be chucked straight into the garbage because almost all websites are accessible to minors. And what content are they restricting in order to protect our children? Well, this is going to allow them to censor information regarding mental health disorders, talk of addiction, violence, bullying and harassment, sexual exploitation and abuse, promotion and marketing of narcotic drugs, predatory, unfair, or deceptive marketing practices. Now, I don't think any reasonable person would say that they want children indulging in inaccurate mental health information, getting bullied online, getting sexually exploited or abused, or being advertised narcotics. I think any reasonable person would agree that those are all bad things, arguably for anyone, but especially children under 13. The problem is, this gives the government pretty wide-ranging authority to crack down on anything violent or sexual or drug-related or mental health-related that they just don't like. And because basically every website is accessible to children, it gives them basically free reign over damn near every website to just delete whatever content they don't like. Now, not everything in this document am I completely opposed to. Like, these safeguards for minors that they list here, I do more or less agree with, such as limiting the ability of people to communicate with minors. I'm on social media, and I'm never fully aware if the person I'm talking to is an adult or a minor, and it's really frustrating because there's a lot of dumbasses, and I don't know if they're annoying and stupid because they're 12, or if they're just a full-grown adult with a terrible opinion. Honestly, anything to limit my exposure to children is a win in my book. I don't want to talk to them, they're fucking annoying. Restricting the ability to view a minor's personal data. I see nothing wrong with that. I have no reason to want to view that data. Disabling rewards for time spent on the platform. They mentioned earlier in the article that this covers video games in a broad sense as well, and there's a lot of really shitty mobile games that just use basic Skinner box techniques with like timers and rewards and daily bonuses. And while I agree that those games are total garbage, and I would love to see them eradicated from the App Store, I feel like it'd be relatively easy for some overzealous prosecutor who doesn't really understand the internet to use this and really fuck up the online experience for everybody. Like, is this going to affect daily login bonuses for video games? Is this going to affect channel points on Twitch that you earn just by viewing? There's a lot of gray area here, and it's very vague, and it's up to how they choose to enforce it. So I feel a little mixed on that one. The ability for a minor to have at least one of the following options. Control personalized recommendation systems. Now, this is something that I don't like, because here's the thing. There's a lot of talk in this bill that basically skirts around the fact that social media of all kinds have an algorithm that they use to recommend you content. And by paying attention to your viewing habits, they can personalize your feed and give you stuff that you actually want to interact with. Are these algorithms abused and used in addictive ways? Yes, absolutely. But the overly broad way that this is written could easily be enforced in such a way that social media companies basically can't personalize your feed, and that would pretty much demolish any semblance of usability on any social media. Whether you realize it or not, pretty much your entire online experience is tailored to you based around your likes and interests. And if I go onto YouTube or TikTok or Twitter or whatever, and I'm seeing a bunch of random shit I don't care about, I'm not using those websites. The fact that my feed is catered to my interests is what makes social media even remotely relevant as a source of entertainment. And trying to muck with the algorithms in the name of protecting children while also not specifying exactly what you're talking about because you want to keep the application as broad as possible is just inherently dangerous. It's just not an amount of power I want to give to the government. Like, listen to this. Opt out of personalized recommendation systems while still allowing the display of content based on a chronological format. Imagine you log into YouTube, and instead of showing you YouTube videos you actually want to watch, it just shows you YouTube videos that have been most recently uploaded. Are you actually shitting me? That would be unusable. Limit types or categories of recommendations? Are you actually insane? Imagine not being able to search for niche interests because that's too many categories, and the algorithm isn't allowed to serve up your specific niche. That's insane. I would hate it. It would make it unusable. Restricting the sharing of geolocation of the minor to other users on the platform. This I 100% agree with, bar none. I have absolutely no need whatsoever to know the exact physical location of anyone on the internet ever. The only people on the internet who need to know where I live is my DoorDash and my Uber. Everyone else can go to hell. Look, it's very clear by the language of the bill that it is designed to focus on the types of content that children can consume on the internet, and I 100% agree that there is dangerous and unhealthy content on the internet which they regularly consume to their own detriment. And this bit here about consulting academic experts, health professionals, yada yada yada, that's not an inherently bad thing. It's an objectively good thing that we should strive to make our online experience less toxic, less full of misinformation, and less full of bullshit in general. That's not my issue with the bill. I'm not against protecting children, and I'm not against people consulting experts and professionals on how to best minimize harm on the internet. My issue is with these overly broad laws that are so vaguely written they can basically apply to anything the government doesn't like. Look, no one likes social media in its current state, and every single one of us, I imagine, has at some point looked at their phone or their computer and screamed because it feels like these apps are designed to just infuriate you over and over and over again, and you wish someone would do something positive about it. I get that. That's a real emotion. The problem is, I don't want to give the government the power of censorship, and every time a company is threatened legally if they don't comply with some far-reaching and overly broad new law, they always err way too far on the side of caution, go well beyond the bounds of what is actually required, and that almost always results in a user experience that is fundamentally worse. At the end of the day, it is already written law that social media platforms cannot be held liable for the content posted by their users because they are not a publisher, they are just an open forum. This has been settled law since 1996, almost 30 years. And it is a pretty solid bedrock that allows social media as a concept to exist in the first place. But that is all I wanted to talk to you guys about today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Comment below what you thought about today's topics. Bye guys!